As we sit here watching crypto markets fall further below, there are two things that are absolutely true right now. Number one, that most analysts you see have been wrong about this current bull market and that we're going into a bear market. And number two, a massive accumulation opportunity is happening right now. What's up everyone? Welcome to Daily Investing. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on the way in if you are new here. Now let's jump into it. So most analysts have been going in saying that the end of the bull market would be maybe the end of summer, maybe the end of this year, or maybe, some are saying going into 2022, but not right here in April. I mean, maybe there was someone out there saying it, but I definitely wasn't. But if we go into the weekly Bitcoin chart, so weekly BTC, we can see this long-term channel. And if we look at the last move, we had this potentially going up to around that $90,000 swing high right around here, as sort of where, just prior to where Bitcoin ended up. Now, this demonstrates one thing, that no one had really anticipated the strength and velocity that Bitcoin had entered into that last bull market. And this entire thing just demonstrates that nobody even knew what was going to happen next, from multiple different angles. So Bitcoin has dropped 50%, altcoins have all followed suit, and now the opportunity has arrived. It is an absolutely crucial time to decide whether you are in this for the long term or not. And if you are a long-term holder, then you should really start on planning on how you're going to scale in your accumulation, as these discounts will come and go with every other cycle as they happen. Now, this entire move right now really does remind me of back here. So we look at the beginning of the last bear market, and I'm not saying that right now just because of the charts, but looking at the whole vibe, the negativity out there, the FUD, it's just screaming in our faces on social media. And I know it's really hard, but my tip really is just to ignore everything that you see. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. Ever since I started doing these videos, I keep saying that my job here really is just to help everyone prepare rather than predict what's actually going to happen. And that's always going to stay the same. Now, I wanted to talk about this one real quick on the week chain. So the Bitcoin market continues to show relative weakness in both price and on-chain activity this week. Simultaneously, the seismic shift is underway in the Chinese mining markets as multiple regions enforce bans on the industry. So this is relevant to the opportunity we were talking about earlier. Now, this is the macro view of crypto right now. So supply and spending behavior. Now, from a macro perspective, there are remarkable similarities to the 2017 macro peak in regards to the balance of supply held by long-term and short-term holders. After reaching peak HODL, both cycles demonstrate a macro distribution event as Bitcoin wealth transferred from long-term to short-term holders. After the tip was put in, we have started to see the opposite effects, where long-term holders stop spending and begin re-accumulating despite these coins falling into an unrealized loss. So here's the chart. Accumulation is here and it has begun. So Bitcoin has fallen by 50% and there are just people accumulating. It's all over social media. You get people out there arguing over who's got the best altcoin, arguing why Bitcoin destroys every other coin out there. There are just people accumulating, and it's just because Bitcoin has dropped by 50%. There is a lot of noise out there, and just ignore it. It is hard to do, but we all have to get really good at ignoring all this noise. But the fact remains that the accumulation period has begun, and it's displayed here on the chart. And it's very similar to our last bear market. But I want to say one other thing. If we go back to the weekly chart and we look at when Bitcoin started its last bull run back in November, I don't think anyone could have even predicted how short the run actually was compared to all of the other previous bull runs. And so if you saw someone saying, trying to tell you how long the bull market or the bear market is going to last, just throw that out the window. The best thing that you can do right now is just use technical analysis to prepare for all of the different types of scenarios and just ignore the rest. So let's talk about the technicals then. So Bitcoin right now on the chart is hovering right around the 1618. And looking at the short-term charts, Bitcoin has made a really cool move off the apex of the ascending triangle. And we had a sort of like a bounce. And now we're talking about a potential reversal, but already Bitcoin has broken our short-term support area in that green area. And now we're in this little apex at the end. So there is a breakout target from the ascending triangle down to that sort of $22,000 area. And I know there have been people out there talking about head and shoulders on the weekly, which we'll look at in a second, with breakout targets sort of below that $20,000 area. I mean, it's all right here. So let's see what an accumulation plan could look like. Now, this isn't financial advice. This is just my approach to Bitcoin. But here is that head and shoulders that we're talking about just before. So this has a target of around about $16,000 if it happens. But interestingly enough, that sort of falls in between one of the most important channels that we can see. So if we zoom out here, we go swing low to the swing high, we get this Fibonacci channel, which is around $26,000 to $16,000. And that's where that head and shoulders target goes right into that channel. Now, if we keep zooming out and we look at the last bear market, and we draw a Fibonacci from the bear market low of 2015 to the previous bull market high, and we get this channel that Bitcoin sort of fell into. And this is where all accumulation from the last bull run really begun. Now, we fell into the 786, and this was the bottom accumulation for Bitcoin back then. So I would say that for my approach, that my eyes are set on these areas between $26,000 and $16,000. If we see anything below those areas, we're really talking about some absolute bargains. So that's my approach, guys. My comfortable accumulation areas for Bitcoin. And the same thing happened in the last bear market. But absolutely, you must have resilience, a bit of conviction in these markets, and just a simple plan that suits you. So take it with a grain of salt. Please always do your research before buying any of these cryptos out there. And hit me up in the comments if you have any questions. So if you made it to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it would really mean the world to me if you could subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what you want to see more of. Until then, I'll see you then.